Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute or Library, the name of my channels on those two websites is Comic Freak. Apparently, Lucasfilm has decided to go and, become even dumber than they were before, because Star Wars confirms Rey's father is a failed Palpatine clone. The Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker novelization reveals Rey's father was actually a failed Emperor Palpatine clone the Sith Eternal built. Yeah, that sounds as lame as it could possibly be, couldn't it? So let's read this article and see what's up with it. The Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker novelization reveals Rey's father is actually a failed Palpatine clone. One of the biggest and most controversial reveals in the film is that Rey is the Emperor's granddaughter, descending from ultimate evil, while Rise of Skywalker director J.J. Abrams and co-writer Chris Terrio have done their best to explain why this plot twist is compelling. Some viewers took issue with how it seemingly retconned The Last Jedi stance that Rey came from nowhere and her parents were nobodies. The Rise of Skywalker tries to form a much better story, but from a certain point of view, it's way around this, but it didn't work for everyone. Didn't work for everyone? It didn't work at all with her being the granddaughter of Palpatine. At all. Because it's stupid. It's just as stupid as saying she came from nobodies because, it just came off as being lame and bad because of the way, Rian Johnson presented it on screen. But now Lucasfilm comes out and says that actually her grandfather was a failed Palpatine clone because they want to, keep stepping back from what they actually produced and then released to movie screens because they want to make as big a breadth of distance from what they actually produced so that the Star Wars franchise and brand itself can maybe, look a little better and a little more appealing to people because what they released in the last two Star Wars movies has been nothing but a basic trash fire that is basically destroying the fandom, and no one wants to watch their movies anymore. So they're basically trying to make a distance from what they've produced, and maybe people will want to see it again. Besides arguably clashing with the themes and developments of Last Jedi, Rey Palpatine obviously had huge implications within the larger Star Wars canon. At the time of The Rise of Skywalker's release, the information presented made it appear as if Palpatine had been intimate with an unknown woman giving birth to a son. For the past few months, fans speculated who Rey's grandmother could be, but now it's been confirmed she does not have one. During the scene in The Rise of Skywalker novelization, when Rey is taking part in the Sith ritual in Exegol to trick Palpatine right before she passes the lightsaber to Ben, she has visions of her grandfather's past. This passage in the book reveals after Return of the Jedi, Palpatine thrust his consciousness into a clone body. However, the transfer was imperfect, and members of the Sith Eternal worked tirelessly to engineer a new vessel for Palpatine's essence. One of these attempts is described as a useless, powerless failure who was not quite identical clone. While this body wasn't fit to house Palpatine's power, it was still able to live and eventually become Rey's father. So, instead of basically giving us an unknown child of Palpatine, you're giving us a failed clone version in hopes that will basically, the fans would take to it more than the fact that Palpatine had an unknown child, and because it broke canon like that. He was the Emperor. He could have hidden a family or a woman behind or everyone's backs, But now that Disney's in such a hold with the canon and that they're are losing money on Star Wars, they're trying everything they can to fix the canon. But I don't think they're actually going to be able to do it because they keep ruining the canon and making it, not make any sense at all. Back in January, Rise of Skywalker editor Marianne Brandon revealed they cut additional Palpatine backstory in an effort to condense the film, and it's possible this information is what she was referring to. Brandon had mentioned that initially the movie got more in-depth into what was keeping Palpatine alive, and it's been confirmed in the Rise of Skywalker scripted, including a line about Palpatine being a clone. While it's understandable why the Rise of Skywalker creative team would want to keep things moving and economically find a way around the topic of Palpatine's return, a case can be made it would have been good to include some of this in the film. It may have cleared up questions some people had. Palpatine's role in Rise of Skywalker received criticism in some circles for coming across as sudden and tacked on without the context of the sequel trilogy. His past between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens could have been fleshed out. That's not even beginning it. He should not have come back at all. They needed a villain because, Rian Johnson killed off Snoke and basically screwed the trilogy, so they brought back Palpatine because they had no one else. They could have, brought back Snoke as a clone and basically given him this and basically ruined the end of Rian Johnson's film, which would have been maybe better for the Rise of Skywalker, but no. They went and got Palpatine and told everyone that he was actually behind Snoke as well, because every Sith Lord is basically a bitch to the one who came before him, right? But it's not even that. They said that Snoke himself was a clone, so he was basically a puppet for Palpatine, so he wasn't even his own man. So I don't see how including all this information in Rise of Skywalker would have already helped the film, because the film was already broken beyond repair, so they couldn't have done anything with it. It'll be interesting if any future canon materials explore more of Rey's father's story. What's fascinating is that even though Palpatine was extremely disappointed in his not-quite-identical clone and the body couldn't serve the purpose for which it was built, Rey's dad was able to leave Exegol and lead a life. One might have expected Palpatine to order the clone be destroyed, so there could be more here. Perhaps he envisioned his failed clone fathering a child who could assume the Sith throne. Palpatine was always thinking ahead and with his master plan, so that wouldn't be out of the question. Oh my god. You think that Palpatine was such a genius? Yeah, he was a genius, but he wouldn't let his plans be dependent on the off chance that his clone could father a child that would be useful to him. What if the child had no force powers in of itself? I'm sure that probably happens. You can't assume that just because it's a child of a clone of the Emperor, of the Dark Lord of the Sith, does not mean it's going to have any power at all. Yes, this is fiction, but this seems like if you were to take this seriously, that Palpatine would not just leave his clone to father a child. He would probably purposely make sure the clone could father children and that they would be able to produce the kind of offspring he would want. Not just rely on happenstance and just complete and utter coincidence that the child would be born and would be powerful enough to be useful to him. No! Palpatine built an empire. He schemed. He used his powers. He manipulated and he killed. He used such power that he could actually obliterate the Jedi. But no. Now we're relying on him oh, I think I'll just release my clone here, who probably doesn't really have a personality, and I can hope that he'll be able to give me what I want in the future. That means a suitable vessel for someone to, namely myself, use her power and use it to revive my body so I can rule the galaxy once again, because I am Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, the master of the Sith, and my plan relies on this little girl who was born to this clone of me, and there's no chance at all that he would have found a woman that would be willing to be with a guy who's obviously somewhat off, right? I mean, come on, the guy was a clone. And he got married to a woman and they had a child. And then they sold the child. And then as the canon now says, it's either that they sold her for beer money or they sold her to protect her. So we have all these storylines that don't make sense and don't really flow together. And we have no idea what's going on. And Palpatine is relying on these idiots to produce him a child that he can use. Meanwhile, on Exegol, he's rebuilding his forces and having people inject him with a fluid so his body doesn't die, and his plans rely entirely on this person he's never met, this girl who is being raised on a desert planet, and he's not watching her at all. He's not making sure she's growing powerful in the ways of the Force. No, he's relying on happenstance to give him what he wants. No, Palpatine would not do that. He's too much of a planner to rely on just chance. There is no way that Palpatine would let things go so far out of his control. He would have made sure Rey was his and he would have raised her in the ways of the Sith, as well as making sure that Ben Solo would have fallen to the Sith as well. In no way in this situation do I ever see Darth Sidious letting anyone or anything interfere with his plans, especially something like letting his clone go off and marry a woman to produce a baby for him, on the off chance he could use her. No, he would make sure that he would have everything in control and that he was at the utmost in his control over the situation. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people. So make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. Then go over to BitChute and Library and subscribe to my channels on those two websites. They're both named Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications. Hit that like button and leave some comments down below. Now, could you please share this video? Share it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it'll do the most good, because because YouTube is not going around promoting their own YouTube creators anymore. So please share this video. Now listen closely. It's that time of the day again. It's plug-in time. Keep checking back in all my future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book, Scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.